Hi, I'm Gail and welcome back to Low Carb Recipe Ideas. Today we're going to make low carb cabbage rolls with a little bit of a twist, something a little different. We're not going to use rice to help be the filler because that's not good for us low carbers. So let's get started and we'll show you how it goes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the tomato sauce for our cabbage rolls, our low carb cabbage rolls. So I have a can of Primo. The carb count is very low on it. For example, it is 3 net carbs for half a cup. You will find if you look at the labels on the different tomatoes, they have all different counts, and that's the lowest that I could find. And at Food Basics, their name brand is the same amount of carb count as this. Their organic one is also the same carb count, but this is the Primo that I have picked for this time. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a can of Hunt's tomato paste, and their carb count is also one of the lower ones, and it's 3 net carbs for 2 tablespoons. So this is the one that I'm going to use in our sauce. So we'll put that into my Ninja here. Then I'm going to put a tablespoon of stevia. You can use Truvia, you can use xylitol. I like xylitol, but I'm actually out of xylitol, or I would have probably used it for this one also. It's one of my favorite sweeteners. And then 2 tablespoons of vinegar. Then I've got a tablespoon of oregano and a teaspoon of garlic powder, and then I have a cup of water. So I'm just going to put the lid on here, and we're going to puree our tomatoes to make some nice tomato sauce. Gotta find out my front here. There we go. There, it doesn't take very long to puree this. So we'll just check to make sure we have it. See, it's thicker. The tomato paste helps thicken it. We don't want to use cornstarch or anything like that. You can use a lot more spices in the sauce if you would like. That's up to you. This isn't very powerful. It's very mild, but it's what I like. And like I said, you can add anything you like into the sauce. So I will set this aside, and then we'll start making the cabbage rolls. So here's my cabbage. I didn't pick a large cabbage. You can do any size you want. These are the sizes that I seem to have at the grocery store. So what I'm going to do is I want to release the leaf from the core. So I just take my knife and I just cut the edges. Now, a lot of people will take the core out and then put it in boiling water for 3 or 4 minutes and do it that way. Everybody does it different. I just work on peeling it. There's even sometimes that I'll put it in the fridge and just let it, sit with no plastic bag on it or anything, and let it kind of wilt or dry out, and do it that way. But I just roll it. Some of them are harder to get off, but I just didn't want to put it in the water. You can, but then you have to use the whole cabbage roll or the cabbage, and I don't want to use the whole cabbage. So I just kind of work at it. So I'll work at this and get some of my leaves off. It's like rubber, so sometimes it'll stick on you. There's another leaf. So I'll keep working and taking some of these off to get ready for the cabbage rolls. Now I've taken 10 off of the cabbage. I've broken the end again on this one, and I want you to pay attention. You need to watch the pattern of your cabbage, because you're seeing that this is the edge and it's wrapped around, and that's the stem. So I just work at it. There we go, and we've got one off. Now, a lot of people will cut the harder part out. I don't. It gets soft, it's edible, it tastes good, and it helps wrap it up also. So I just leave them there. So it's up to you whether or not you want to take that off. And now I have my cabbage that hasn't been boiled in water, and I can make a cabbage salad or whatever I want to do with it. Because I feel it gets ruined all the time, and it really wasn't that much work to take them off. Some of them got split a little bit, but when you wrap them, you're going to wrap them up that you're not going to have them all torn anyway, so you're not going to know any different anyhow. But the rest of them, I got them off quite easily. See, there's a couple little slits in them, but they still work quite well. And that way you're saving the rest of your cabbage and you're not wasting it, which to me is really important, because what do you do with it after? A lot of people will just throw it out. So I have 10 leaves that I've taken off the cabbage, and we will start mixing the hamburger together. So I have 2 pounds of ground beef in my dish, in my bowl. I'm going to take a large white onion chopped, so it's approximately a cup of white onions, and then I'm going to take a tablespoon of my Herbamare spice. Now I use this in almost all my recipes because I absolutely love the mixture of the spices, and you can also get it in zesty, which is very good also, but I picked this up at the Price Club and it was like $6 for this whole container, whereas it's a lot more expensive in the regular stores. So for example, the carb count is absolutely 0 in here. There's no sugar added or anything, and it's a very delightful spice. I'm sure you'll really enjoy it if you haven't had the chance to try it. But you can put any kind of spices that you want into your ground beef. Now I'm just gonna, my hands have been washed. I am just going to mix this all up. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit more in of the Herbamare. Oh, I don't do very well with my left hand here. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more in there. And you do not need bread crumbs. You do not need rice. You know, it's just a filler. With your ground beef and your onions, you make them into your little mounds of meat to put in your cabbage, and it stays together beautifully. It doesn't fall apart. There, so that's well mixed. And like I said, you can put any kind of spice in there. Just make sure it doesn't have any carb count in it, because the more carbs you put in, the more you have to add onto your cabbage rolls. So we're just making some of the ground beef up so that it will fit inside of the cabbage. But the nice thing that I'm going to add to this is I love bacon with my cabbage rolls. It just gives it a little extra. So I've cut my bacon in half, and I'm just going to wrap it around each one, and that gives it a little extra flavor. Bacon actually stretches, so you could just stretch it right around and you wrap up the whole thing. There's no carbs in the bacon. Actually, you need to pay attention to what bacon you're buying again, because there are some bacon that does have carbs in it, like if they have maple or any kind of sugars, it's going to show it on the carb count. And actually the bacon that I use is Snyder's, all natural, and it doesn't have any preservatives in it, nitrates and that kind of stuff, and it's a very nice bacon. You pay a bit more for it. The regular bacon you can also purchase that doesn't have any carb count in it, but just make sure you read the labels. It's so important just to read those labels. So then we're just going to take our cabbage leaf and we're going to roll them up. Now you're going to find, because we didn't boil the cabbage leaves to start, that they are a little stiffer and you might have to work a little harder with it. But that's all you have to do, and you've got a cabbage roll all ready to go. So I will do the rest of them. one, we'll just roll up another one. And see, this one's split, but it still works just fine, even though it's split. And if you have trouble getting the actually I broke that toothpick. If you have trouble getting the toothpick in, I found if you just kind of hammer it down, and it's because I kept the thicker part of the stem. But just turn it upside down, hold it, and then pound it down a little bit, and it goes right in. And I'll just place it in the pan. So we're going to do the last one. Take a half a slice of bacon, wrap it around, get my last leaf, fold in the sides, roll, and then grab a toothpick. And if you find the toothpick hard to go in, just hold it and turn it upside down and bang on it, and you've got your cabbage roll. So I have 11 cabbage rolls here, and I've just put it in my roasting pan. Now I have a little bit of onion left on the plate from when I was doing my mixture, so I'm going to just throw that in the pot. I have a little bit of hamburger left over, so I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to sprinkle it on and around, because when I put the sauce in there, it can just mix with the sauce and give it some extra flavor. Or if I did a leaf from the cabbage, I could have made another cabbage roll, but I'm not going to, so I'm just going to sprinkle the meat in. Just depends on how many you want. So now we're going to take the tomato sauce that I have made, and like I said, you can put any spices that you want into your recipe. I've done mine very mild, but you might like to have a lot more than what I have done. So we're just going to take this tomato sauce, pour over top. We're going to put it in the oven at 350 for approximately 45 to an hour. 45 minutes to an hour. And I need to wash my hands before I do anything else. So we're going to put the lid on the roasting pan. Temperature's at 350 in the oven. Put it on the middle rack, and I'll put the timer on for approximately an hour. So here are my cabbage rolls. They're absolutely delicious. If you go to lowcarbrecipe.ideas.com, you can try out this recipe and then try out other ones that I have. Very good. Now I kept them in the oven for about an hour and a half, which is a little bit longer. You just have to check them to see if they're done to your liking. And you can choose any kind of spice that you like. This is basically the base of it, of how to make your cabbage rolls, low-carb cabbage rolls. I hope you go to lowcarbrecipe.ideas.com, try our recipes, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye now.